Players need to learn from their mistakes as quickly as possible. In early versions of Left 4 Dead, if survivors failed a campaign at any point, we just put them right back at the beginning and made them play the whole thing over again. That meant that if the team dies in the last level, it'll be close to 45 minutes before they ever get back to that map to try something new. This made it hard for players to remember exactly what they'd done wrong, and so it was hard for them to decide what they might want to do differently. So now, when a team goes down, we just reset to the beginning of the level that they died on. This gives them a lot more freedom and flexibility in how they approach the most challenging sections.
All the music in Left 4 Dead, themes, motifs, hits, and effects, are based on a hybrid scale derived from the main opening menu theme. This theme, representing the near death of humanity as it fades to a distance only to be accessed through a radio, is an incremental melodic modulation collecting up all the notes used along the way. The scale is not absolute, and some notes outside the scale are used occasionally to achieve even greater dissonance. But by using the singular and very chromatic scale, almost any piece written in it will generally dovetail pretty decently with any other. At the very least, the pieces seem to spring from the same musical universe. The resulting tunes are deceptively complex, easy to remember but difficult to sing accurately.
When players are moving through the world in a panic and trying to coordinate with their team, the last thing you want them to worry about is which key lets them crouch so they can scramble into a vent. Throughout the game, we tried to simplify movement controls so that players could enjoy the terror of the experience with as little frustration as possible. Here, and at similar obstacles, we make the survivor crouch automatically when they come to a vent. Wherever possible, we try to keep these decisions invisible to players to keep the illusion that they're moving through this frightening world on instinct without ever thinking about controls.
The hospital rooftop is the finale that saw the most iterations. It's the first one that we ever built. The initial design had the survivors inside of a building with the helipad outside. You would fight inside the building till help arrived, and then you'd go out to the helipad to escape. We found that it was too easy for the survivors to back into a small room and hold out, just shooting the infected as they came through the doorway. This killed the drama because we'd have hundreds of infected attacking the rooftop, but you'd never see them, only the trickle that got through the doorway. We learned through playtests that survivors have a natural tendency to climb up on things. It's like the infected are a flood, and survivors are always trying to get to high ground. So we played to that tendency, building rooftop areas that were easily accessible where the survivors could navigate from one roof to another. Knowing that survivors want to get to high ground, we can anticipate how they'll approach the map, and we can design around that. For example, the infected can scale rooftops from all sides so the survivors can never back into a corner where they're safe. As a bonus, survivors get to actually see the infected running at them from a long distance away, which is a lot more dramatic than shooting at them as they pile through a doorway.
Left 4 Dead was originally going to have a continuous story that started with the hospital campaign. When the chopper pilot picked you up, he would start talking about how he had just done a street pickup and wasn't feeling so well. Clearly he had just been infected and the chopper was about to go down. We found that this left playtesters feeling let down, instead of rewarded for having survived the challenging campaign. We decided to cut that section of the pilot's dialogue and kept the ending upbeat, reinforcing the player's sense of accomplishment.
The tank is an awesome presence on the battlefield. It's the only zombie that can withstand any amount of direct fire. To successfully combat a tank, the survivors need to work together and focus on their target, and even then the chance of catastrophe is high. With all of this power, it's a huge reward when a player gets to play the tank. We wanted to create something that rewarded player performance so it would feel fair, but we also wanted to make sure that it didn't generate a feedback loop, where one player would always end up being the tank. Often when trying to solve a game design problem like this, it's good to look at mechanisms that exist outside the gaming world that solve the same problems. That way our players will instantly understand the mechanism at play, and we can tap into the same excitement that might already exist for the external mechanism. The tank raffle has the added benefit of announcing to the player zombies when the tank is created, and piquing anticipation for the most exciting part of the game.
In early playtests, when players controlled the tank, we had a major problem with them not behaving in character, totally breaking the game balance of the tank and making him a game ender almost every time. The problem was that an intelligent human player wants to win right now, and the tank was designed to be an enraged berserker that just charges in and starts smashing stuff. Having a tank that can take tons of damage, has an incredibly powerful melee attack, and is smart, hides in choke points, and stays in cover constantly, as a smart human does, was a huge problem. One choice was simply to not allow the tank to be human controlled and to leave it to the AI to drive its behaviors consistently. With that as our fallback, we worked on trying to find a behavior modifier that would encourage human players to act in a more tank-like way. Eventually, we settled on a fairly simple solution, the patience meter. When a human becomes a tank, he has a certain amount of patience, which is shown graphically on his HUD. This patience wears down whenever he can't see the survivors. If the tank's patience runs out, the player loses control of the tank AI and it returns to spectator mode. This allows the player to decide how to engage the survivors, but makes it clear that he needs to get in and start swinging or he'll lose his turn. By making this behavior contract clear to the player, we get the kind of tank behavior we need, and human players get to enjoy causing total chaos as the biggest, baddest boss in the game.
A cooperative and experienced survivor team can become very good at staying together and watching all around them, to the point that it becomes difficult for the zombie to cut the kind of chaos and panic that makes the game exciting. The smoker was created to forcibly pull this tag team apart. Moving just one survivor far out of position with a smoker tongue attack proved to be enough to break things up and bring the chaos back.
While special effects seem on the surface to be visual fluff, they also serve critical gameplay functions. To use an example of the smoker, we can see how his various effects follow his design. The role of the smoker is to keep his distance, lurking on rooftops, trees, and other out-of-the-way spots to pull a survivor out of formation and break up the group. As such, unlike other types of infected, he prefers to keep his distance from the survivors. In order to give him a distinct and visible silhouette in the often dark and distant locales that he frequents, he has a swarming spore cloud. We use a variety of small techniques here to help guarantee a strong read in all situations. The spores themselves are lit by the local lighting, but always maintain some degree of color so that the smoker retains some distinct visibility even in complete darkness. Further, we apply a technique we also use in a variety of feedback-based effects such as blood and impacts, where the particles have a minimal screen space size regardless of their distance. This allows the smoker to retain his distinctive effect at far distances, or when silhouetted against the sky, while keeping the actual particle sizes small when up close. Since the smoker is usually dealt with at a distance, often at angles which make getting a shot difficult, his death must also be clearly broadcast to players so that they can tell when they've killed him. This is where the smoker's moniker comes into play. When he is killed, he releases a large smoke cloud, which is not only a visual payoff for killing the smoker, but a clear read that he has been defeated and won't escape to attack again. His cloud also serves as a final act of revenge, obscuring nearby players' visibility as well as hiding infected within.
We knew we wanted homemade weaponry for Left 4 Dead, and a pipe bomb seemed ideal. However, for a long time the pipe bomb wasn't very fun. We tried various things such as having a pipe bomb kill a tank. That certainly made the pipe bomb valuable, but instead of being exciting, it made the tank battle anticlimactic. We also tried making the explosion radius much larger, but the instant explosion made it difficult to time perfectly to be effective against a mob rush. In the final months of development, one of the animators suggested the pipe bomb having a beeping, flashing light that attracted zombies. That added the missing fun element, an interesting and useful tactical choice for the survivor. We prototyped this new pipe bomb behavior, and it was an instant success. There are definitely situations where you want a Molotov, but now that choice is harder to make because both are useful and fun.
While there are hundreds of infected types mobbing the player in Left 4 Dead, there are only 4 survivors. To make sure these 4 stood up to close scrutiny over many hours of playtime, we decided to use photographic reference of faces and wardrobe details. We started out by casting 4 individuals who fit the general design concepts we had created for our characters. These models were photographed on a turntable under both flat and dynamic lighting conditions in order to provide reference for modelers and texture artists. In addition, each model was photographed in a custom-built mirror box, which allows us to capture simultaneous front, right, left, top, and bottom views in a single shot. The talent was guided through a matrix of facial expressions, creating a complete catalog of movements and expressions for each character's face. This is an invaluable resource for our modelers and animators when they start to recreate these expressions in 3-dimensional models.
Because teamwork is so important to gameplay in Left 4 Dead, we wanted to give players feedback on how they and their teammates were working as a team. The first version of this was something we called awards, which is basically a large collection of positive and negative player actions. It was like having merits and demerits. Awards showed up as icons in the HUD, and everyone could see what awards other people on the team were receiving. This turned out to be too complex and confusing. It was hard to decipher what the icons meant, and the negative awards just hurt the feelings of new players rather than educating them. Also, with so much activity going on in the game, it was hard to notice the award icons at the time the good teamwork occurred. In the next version, we drastically narrowed the list to just a few positive things a player can do, replaced the icons with very short text, and added a glow to the player icon in the HUD. This had the desired effect of reinforcing good teamwork right when it occurred and broadcasting players' good deeds to his teammates.
Because Left 4 Dead is designed to be played over and over again, we made the dialogue scenes have as many variants as we could cram in. For instance, the encounter with the crazy church guy halfway through the Death Toll campaign includes more than 130 lines spread across 5 characters that can play out about 25 different ways. The variations appear based on which survivor initially uses the door, what other survivors are near that survivor, and random chance. The end result is that players can go through the encounter many times without hearing the same conversation twice.
Early in the design of this rooftop scenario, the finale would start as soon as someone hit the radio button. We saw playtesters consistently run up and hit the button without preparing for the battle first. To let players know that they needed to prepare and to give them time to do it, we changed the design so that the pilot tells them to call him back when they're ready.
From the start, focusing on cooperation was a primary design goal of Left 4 Dead. Although other games support cooperative play, extremely few actually require it. There are many core game mechanics in our game that require cooperation to succeed. One of the first that we added was having your character collapse to the ground, incapacitated and unable to move when your health reaches 0. You continue to lose health in this state, and the zombies will continue to attack you. Once you're incapacitated, you will die unless a friend helps you back to your feet. Reviving an incapacitated friend takes 5 seconds, so it is a risky investment, as the rescuer is vulnerable and unable to defend himself during this time.
Traditional vignetting is a term from photography which refers to the slight darkening of the periphery of a photograph. In our vignetting approach, we darken only the top edge and corners. This focuses player attention down into the middle of the play space where it belongs, while also creating a sense of oppression or claustrophobia. This is a great example of how a visual enhancement can have a positive effect on the overall game experience as well.